Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Darby Coughlin, and I'm the events coordinator here at APMP, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's APMP sponsored webinar. We're excited to present the topic, Accelerating AI Adoption. Transform your proposal process with insights from the experts. APMP webinars are always free for members, as we aim to keep them unbiased so you can apply what you learn immediately without the need to purchase anything specific. Occasionally, we feature tech solutions that our members may be interested in, and while APMP remains neutral, we offer sponsored webinars where vendors can present their products, services, or ideas. These sessions may include things like product demos or highlights of the vendor's services. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that today's session is being recorded. The recording will be available on APMP TV shortly after the live session. And while you are there, we also encourage you to explore our library of past webinars, all of which are free for APMP members. As you think of questions during the presentation today, please feel free to submit them using the question icon located at the bottom right of your video player. We'll do our best to address them at some point during the session. Finally, by registering for this webinar, you'll receive a follow-up email with our feedback survey and any resources our speakers would like to share. All right, I think we're ready to go now, so I will turn things over to our presenters today. Sam Cooper, Senior Solutions Engineer at Procurement Sciences. Larry Pitts, Director of Customer Success, Account Management, and AI Adoption at Procurement Sciences. And Elizabeth Bruce, Customer Success Manager at Procurement Sciences. Take it away, Sam.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, we're so excited to have everyone join us today. I'm so lucky to be joined by Elizabeth and Larry, my friends, my colleagues, who I've been able to work with over the past couple years. And big thanks to APMP too for having us. We're so excited to be here. I'm Sam, as Darby so kindly introduced. I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer with Procurement Sciences, and I'll be the moderator today. So the goal really is to kind of take us through, give us some tips and tricks, and talk to some of the experts. Larry and Elizabeth have worked with so many customers to implement AI into their proposal processes that there's got to be something in there worthwhile, right? So we'll pull that out today, and certainly no shortage of insights from these guys. Before we do that, though, I just quickly want to talk a little bit for anybody who's unfamiliar about procurement sciences, just high level, right? Who are we? What do we do? Procurement sciences, of course, is the team behind Awarded AI. Really, we were the first to market in the space for AI for government contractors, specifically in proposals and capture for growth. And our mission really is to help teams find, win, and deliver more efficiently and more effectively in the GovCon space. We've really grown super rapidly. It's been awesome to be a part of. We have a number of the top 10 largest systems integrators and contractors out there, and we also help a ton of small and mid-sized businesses too. So it's really been great to be a part of. On the agenda for today, basically, guys, we'll go through and we'll talk a little bit about, what AI in GovCon looks like. We'll talk about how teams are winning. I want to hear a lot today from the audience, right? Questions, and also I'm excited to hear from Larry and Elizabeth as well as we go through. So there will be some, audience polls throughout. Feel free to drop those answers in the chat. And really, what I want the focus to be is, what are those real world successes? What are the things that teams are doing right? And how can you guys ultimately find, the value in AI as you look to adopt it? And of course, for us, right, procurement sciences, one of the things that really sets us apart in the industry is adoption, right? And that's kind of why we're here today. The first bullet here on the slide, you'll notice there was an MIT study that came out maybe a couple months ago now that found about 95% of adoptions, not in government contracting specifically, but in general, AI implementations, those teams were failing to adopt, right? They were failing to gain traction. What we've seen really is the exact, converse of that, right? Where we're seeing around 95% of people, if not more, successfully adopting and implementing AI into their processes. And there's no doubt that the credit there goes to folks, like Larry and Elizabeth, who work with our customers every day to make sure, that people are adopting, people are finding the value. And so, our success and the success of our customers is really driven by Larry's team, the customer success team. So with that, guys, the first thing that I'd like to do here is pose a pretty simple question to both Larry and Elizabeth, and I'll kind of zip my lip here for a little while. What are the challenges that AI can really solve for us? What are some of those things that people can jump on right away, right? And where can teams kind of find those quick wins? So I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to Larry first, and just get your thoughts in general, Larry. What are some of those challenges that AI can solve for teams?
Yeah. Thank you, Sam, and good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us. Great question, Sam. I think that's probably the one we hear the most. Everybody wants an easy button. Everybody wants to have a quick fix or something that's going to be transformative. And I think what we're going to discuss today, you'll see that we have some spot on examples. But what I want to really point and focus on is where you're going to see people have the biggest transformation or opportunity for growth or transforming the process is when you have folks that wear multiple hats. We know them, you know them, people that are brilliant, entrepreneurial, are ingenuitive, that wear a lot of different hats, that are capable of writing a proposal or managing a project process, have familiarity with operations. These people, they can do really well what they do every day, but they're limited by the time suck of the proposal process. And that's where I think AI is going to have the biggest difference for users like that. AI will be a force multiplier. It's meant to empower and multiply their own capabilities so they're no longer forced to choose, hey, am I going to pursue this RFP? Well, we have this one large RFP. We don't have time to respond to RFIs or sources sought. That's going to hurt them down the road. Now they'll have the bandwidth to chase it all. But I think the key point, and we'll talk more about this today, is AI is not going to replace that expertise, though. It's going to unleash it, but you still have to know what you're doing. And if you're already successful, but are just constrained by time, energy, and resources, well, that's where AI is going to help you the most.
Yeah, that's something I've seen too, where people who wear multiple hats, right, and are really constrained by that bandwidth. Oftentimes, they're kind of the nexus of the company. They have all the information, they have all the knowledge, and so really amplifying them with AI is something that brings immense value to any process, or to any of our customers. Elizabeth, what do you think here? What are some of those challenges that you've seen AI solve really effectively?
Well, I know from having been a proposal manager, there are just so many repetitive tasks that are part of that process. They're just, I mean, it just becomes mentally exhausting after a while. And so in particular, like maintaining boilerplate language, for example, all those that language you use to describe your products and services, the overview of your company's background, your approach to staffing, your quality assurance processes, those sorts of things. I mean, a lot of it remains the same. It's those little details that you have to go back and change, but it's taxing. And so I really have seen where leveraging AI can kind of take that burden away and ensure that, these standard sections, this boilerplate language, you can keep it relevant, you can keep it fresh, you can keep it up to date, and it allows you to save time. And then you have that mental space to be more creative, to be more innovative, that sort of thing as you're going through the proposal process. Also, just a game changer when it comes to analyzing agency data and communications to really uncover like the mission and pain points of these different federal agencies, for example. So that, again, bringing in your AI tools, you can efficiently and effectively tailor your proposals to speak to those the missions of these organizations, these pain points, drawing from what you offer and matching it up with what they're looking for.
And Sam, I don't know if I could add to that, but just kind of play off what Elizabeth is saying too, is I think we're repeating a lot of the same themes is, you've done this hundreds of times. You've broken down acronyms, you've done compliance matrices. Let's reuse that good content, the things that you've already done, those processes backwards and forwards, and you probably see in your sleep. That's where AI should be utilized. It's not going to replace solutioning and what you tell the tool to do, but let's get that time back so you can focus there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's great insights. And I think a lot of those things, to your point, Elizabeth, that are just so repetitive that we all know. One of the coolest wins for me when I first, joined procurement sciences was just pointing the AI at an RFP and asking it, what do you think the customer's key challenges are? Like what's their sentiment? What's their tone of voice? What can you infer from that? Seems so simple now looking back to me as someone who works with AI every day, but that unlocks a lot of possibilities, that semantic analysis. So it's super, super cool to see things like that in real time. Guys, I want to pose a question to the audience. So, of course, we want to keep you guys involved here, right? Go ahead and drop in the chat. Have you guys experimented with AI in your proposal process? Is this something that you're kind of playing around with? Is this something that's that you're using every day, or is it something that maybe you haven't really played around with a whole lot? We'd love to hear from you guys. Let's see here. We see some results coming in here. It's like maybe every day. We have a couple people who are in it all the time. Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Only when needed. That's a good perspective too. Every day. Larry, I'm sure you remember, and Elizabeth, you do as well. But when a couple years ago, it was in these kinds of calls, it was never. No one's ever used it before, and it's been crazy to see the transformation. Too much. Somebody says they use it. What do you think about that, Larry?
And what I think that makes a lot of sense to me too, because as the tools have matured, the ability of users to understand how to use the tools has matured as well. I know when I first started with AI, it was, what is the most difficult task I have? What is the thing that I'm dreading to do the most? I'm going to try to get the tool to do that. And of course, yeah, that's extremely helpful. But as I start using it day to day, you'll find that, oh, you know what? I can be a lot better at Excel. And why do I Google questions to figure out how to do this in PowerPoint? AI can help you a lot in those areas. And you'll start finding, oh, I know a lot of things. This can help me fill the gaps in the things that I only know part of that to there. Help me get there and fill in those gaps.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
not surprised. This looks good.
Yeah, all the different use cases. It's crazy. Somebody says I use it daily for nearly every task. And that's, yeah, me too. I'm on it all day long. All right, guys. So let's jump into the next panel question. Elizabeth, I'm going to start with you here. When you have worked with customers, what do you think the secret to AI adoption is, right? If you could come in and tell a company, here's the secret, here's the key, unlock the door. What have you seen in that regard from our customers?
Well, I definitely bring the lens myself, having was not an AI user before I joined procurement sciences. So I definitely understand the perspective of just coming in and not being sure what this is. And for organizations new to AI, for individuals new to AI, we as a customer success team, we implement a crawl, walk, run approach with our customers. And I really do think that is applicable across all along the way as you bring AI into your workflows. What do I mean by that? It means just, starting small, starting with a task that you just diving in and finding out what the AI can do for you. And by doing this, it allows you to get familiar with what the AI can do. It also helps you to establish realistic expectations for what the AI can do, and where you're going to have to bring in your knowledge and expertise to supplement, where you need to maybe build out some resources to feed it, those types of things. But I really do find that by implementing a crawl, walk, run approach, it really ensures a smooth transition period for teams and just supports that sustainable adoption that, is ultimately the goal here, right? If nobody's using it, then I'm wasting my time, and so are you. So it really helps too, because we all know that you're all balancing a million things. You're spinning a million plates at the same time. And so it makes it realistic and an easier lift to start incorporating into your workday.
Yeah. And so kind of starting small and stacking from there, finding what works quickly, and then continuing to build on that. I think that's a really good strategy. Larry, what about you? What have you seen?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. But I think, AI adoption to be really successful, this needs to be a multifaceted effort. So probably the 5,000 or plus hours of training I've done with different teams and users, probably the biggest differentiator that I see between teams that are successful out of the gate and teams that struggle adopting and learning AI is really one thing: the leaders who know their people and the leaders who don't know their folks. I really do promote, and I try to tell users as much as possible that while everyone doesn't consider AI tools like we do like an ERP implementation, we should treat this like organizational change management, as we're investing in a tool for our company, but we're also investing in our people. What we've seen is that the most successful leaders, they don't view AI as an easy button or just a way to reduce their overhead. They instead see it as a direct investment in their team's future. They treat this as organizational change management. They understand that learning AI is like learning to ride a bike. We've been using Google and our computer systems now for 30, 40 years, and AI is fundamentally, it interacts with you in a different way. So we're going to fall down a few times. We're going to trip, we're going to scrape our knees, and we'll think that it's impossible. But then one day, if you're patient and you keep encouraging your team to get back up and try and to learn and to get through that huddle, oh, now you're riding. You don't need the training wheels anymore. Ultimately, the goal, and this should be the goal of leadership here, is you're not looking to replace good people. You want to take the successful people you already have and you give them a tool that helps them be the absolute best they can be. So, like I said, organizational change management, I think we really should look at AI from that perspective, in that you need to get your stakeholders involved. You need to know what they need and how they're going to use it, because you don't just give a graphing calculator to a kindergartner and expect them to know what to do with it and to be successful.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think that's important too, is knowing your people. I liked what you said there, leaders who know their people. Because if you think about the best person you have on your team, who's, the most productive, the most effective, whatever it might be, if you could just multiply that person, force multiplier when we talk about it that way. And so I think, knowing who could use help where, whose bandwidth is really tight, and then who could probably use, maybe some of the other use cases that you spoke to earlier about, well, maybe I only know 75% of what I really need to know to execute this really effectively. If I know, okay, there's a person who maybe has a little less knowledge, well, let's use the AI from that perspective too. And so I think knowing your people and knowing how, each of them could make the most out of AI is super huge as well. Really, really important.
Yeah, and I don't want to miss the fact too that AI can be a huge collaborative tool to share that knowledge and help each other fill in those gaps. A team is only as strong as their weakest link.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's the one of the things that I felt, kind of the most potently in my past life was knowledge silos, right? There were sort
Mm.
of tribal knowledge. People know one thing on one side, and then, I'm little old me over here, and I'm left without the knowledge. And so that's the coolest thing, is the AI can really kind of democratize that and give us all access to, to all of that knowledge. Have you seen that too, Elizabeth? Does that make sense to you, or what are your thoughts there?
Oh, totally. And really just taking it slowly, getting that gradual rollout. Going back to Larry's point about, the people being at the heart of it, start with a handful of people across different teams. These teams, these leaders of their teams, or these individuals on the teams, they know their workflows. They know what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. They know where their pain points are. They know what the time suck is. And having them, play around with the tool, figure out where it might fit, where it makes sense to try to fit it into what they're doing. And it really makes them, more prepared to then bring on others from their team to continue to use it and kind of innovate on those ideas. And it also makes them just more motivated to do so, because they're seeing some advantage already and they can communicate that advantage better than I can even. And I think we really can't underestimate too how critical it is to find champions for AI within your organization. And you have no idea. You never know what that person's going to look like, or what they're doing, or what their role is. I see it over and over. It's people in all different phases of their career. It's people in all different departments. But those individuals who kind of just really take to it, they can be huge assets to really bring others in and kind of help them, like Larry said, get those training wheels on, and then before they're able to take off, and then before you know it, they're on their way.
Yeah, that's one thing. One of my first customers when I joined Procurement Sciences as a customer success manager was really, really skeptical. And he was like, "Oh, I'm an old dog. You can't teach me new tricks." And that was foreign to me, because all the other customers I had seen, all the power users and the AI champions were those old dogs, right? So I was like, well, it seems like everybody can do this thing. And so it's been really cool to see, for sure.
And what's funny too is those old dogs, when they get over that initial hump of I'm frustrated with the technology, I don't understand it, they have the most intrinsic knowledge and the most industry knowledge, that they know what to tell the tool to do, that it will take other users days or prompts or sessions to get up to that speed. They don't have that knowledge. So there's a lot that they can take advantage of that. I think one last thing, to leave off on this though, is it's also very important to set reasonable expectations and KPIs too, because we know that just because you bring in a new implementation, a new system into your tool set, it's not going to be a quick fix and a slot in on day one, and neither is your workload going to slow down while you're learning a new application and tool. So a lot of what I teach my users and my customers is don't try to make AI fit for everything. If you are better at doing it manually, keep doing it that way. But don't limit your expectations of what the AI can do, because it is technically still a black box to a lot of us. We need to challenge it and see what it can and can't do. But your expertise will fill out and filter and tell us, okay, what is it doing well? And what is it not doing well? So we can know where to focus you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, let's jump back into another audience question here. So, want to hear from you guys out there in the audience. What's the biggest challenge that you guys are facing today? Maybe one that you think AI could help with. Maybe just in general, right? Is it bandwidth? Are you guys struggling with, proposal compliance? Is it, difficult to collaborate? Right off the bat, see a couple twos for compliance there. Definitely something that I expected. Right, we hear that all the time, of course. Proposal quality, a couple fours coming up as well, which is interesting there. Larry, how do you think, or actually let's give this one to Elizabeth. Larry, I gave you the last one. Elizabeth, how do you think AI can really help with proposal quality specifically? Is that something that you can speak to?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest things as it relates to proposal quality is kind of being that second set of eyes. Oftentimes, I know from my own experience as a proposal writer, I was often, I was the whole team, or I had a very small team. And, you get into the proposal, it backwards and forwards, and you can't see the forest for the trees anymore. And so I think one of the biggest things that I hear from my users that they get a lot out of is using it kind of as an evaluator, having it come in, I think I've gotten it almost to the finish line. AI step in, take the evaluation criteria, put it onto the proposal that you've created. And I've told over and over, just how helpful that is, giving that feedback, but also giving concrete suggestions for where you might improve on that content, because you only, you're in the weeds at that point. So to get that fresh set of eyes, I just think is really indispensable when it comes to proposal quality.
Yeah, it's even like responsiveness. Like the AI can go through. One of the coolest things I've seen is, are we actually just parroting the shall statements back, or are we actually speaking to the customer's needs and challenges? Are we actually being responsive? So it's yeah, I've seen a ton of those use cases too. And it also kind of depends, I think, on like small businesses might be very different from large businesses, because for small businesses, proposal quality overall might be a concern where the AI can step in on day one and really make a big impact with quality of writing and clarity and all those things. Whereas with large businesses, they probably have teams that, are big enough to support, those kind of things right out of the box. So it's definitely interesting. Well, that's awesome, guys. I definitely appreciate the feedback, and a lot of twos for compliance, which we definitely hear all the time. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to the next one here. This is one of my favorites. I was excited for this slide specifically, and I want to start off here with, what wins have you seen, guys? What are the areas where you've seen teams come in? What are some of those success stories, right? Where have teams been really effective? I guess we can start with, let's start with Elizabeth this time, I guess.
So a couple of things come to mind. One is capabilities matrices. I know I've had customers who say, it's a very time-consuming task. Maybe they have to share something back with like a teaming partner or something like that. And, whereas before it might have taken them even a week to like just get through and really, finish that task, they can have it done in such a much quicker amount of time. Also, I've gotten a lot of positive feedback for people who are trying to fill like the staffing requirements on an RFP. And maybe, we all can't be across every industry. And so it's specifically like, this in this example, it was more like of a technical field where they didn't feel as confident that they knew all the acronyms and all the certifications and that sort of thing. So using the AI as a partner to kind of help do that gap analysis, and then to brainstorm ideas for follow-up questions that they wanted to follow up with a particular candidate, to kind of make sure they could dig into some of that experience and make sure they understood, how it was or was not meeting this particular requirement. And again, I would say just that evaluation piece, I get a lot of positive feedback from customers who, they get it to a certain point, they think it's ready for a review, and just having that new set of eyes to look at it and really pinpoint, for example, do they have enough metrics? Do they have the right metrics? Are there gaps where they're, proving that they have the experience and that they've demonstrated their expertise? Things like that customers share with me on a regular basis.
Sam,
That makes
can I
perfect
pick right
sense.
off that?
I was on mute there, hunting for the mute button. Yeah, go ahead, Larry. Absolutely.
No, I was just going to build off of that too. I don't know if everyone is familiar with the Bluebird concept. If not, I'll briefly explain it. But we have a customer that I think I saw a real positive win from, and really the win came from a positive mind shift. So, for those not familiar, the Bluebird concept is just the concept that refers to a lucky, high value sales opportunity that appears just unexpectedly. So, that RFP you decided to pass on, or the RFI where you did a gap analyses and a capabilities matrix, and you're getting about 60-70% of the way there, but you think you have one good feature or tool that can really knock it out of the park, but you decide to pass. The Bluebird concept is real. And what we found with this one team here is, like we said, the biggest win isn't just the contract. It's going to be that mindset shift. And that's what I think was really successful with this team. Is a lot of teams, when they're getting into tools like these and AI and even the proposal process, the biggest concern will be, is our data perfect? Do I have everything? Am I taking everything into consideration? And what this team did is they stopped asking, is our data perfect? And started asking, how can the tool help us win today? They focus on the work and the high quality data flows of the things that they have and see where they go from there, because they knew it was a paradigm shift, a mind shift in how they worked and how they operated and how they used their data. So what they did to avoid what I call data paralysis, that's where teams think they need to spend all their time bringing in a massive library of past documents, past performances, previous resources, CPARs. And don't get me wrong, it is important to have that data. Data is king. But we're also using data in a different way that we have before. And the AI doesn't need data the same way we've always used it. Open up every file, save every version, every draft. So what this customer did is they worked and did the exact opposite of loading everything in. They embraced an approach I called cleaning the basement as you go. They didn't stress about front loading every single thing into the system from the last 20 years of their businesses. Instead, they just went with, what are we working on right now? What are our objectives for this quarter, this year? What's on our forecast? And what data do we need right now to respond to those or to work off of those? And they brought in files, they brought in data as they needed it, but they also use this as an exercise as a team, that as they brought in each file, they make a decision. Like you're cleaning out your basement. Do I keep this? Is this in the maybe pile? I need to get someone else to look it over or make sure it's not worth keeping. Or is it outdated junk that we can just archive? Don't throw it away, but maybe we can't use it as past performance or experience anymore. And what this approach did is it completely changed the game for them. It first taught them that what the data and how the AI uses that data and what AI actually thrives on when it gets your data. They quickly learned that the AI doesn't benefit from repetitive data, saying every single FAR clause again, or your UEI every single time, or even seeing, your best of technical approach and then seeing old versions of it. What they did is they built a lean, powerful library from their best content as they used it. And second, it shifted their focus from data prep to getting results. And their energy went into winning, not just organizing. They all felt a part of the process. They felt engaged in there, and they ended up getting better high quality data because they had a natural byproduct of doing that work. And when we go back to the Bluebird concept, this team and the way they've been approaching things, last time I heard, they were going after almost every bid that crossed their desk, and they had one that was a shot in the dark. Didn't look like a perfect fit. Didn't know if we even had a chance at it, but they'd used the AI and gotten their other bids done. They said, let's take a shot. $40 million. You don't know what you're going to hit. You don't take the shot. And because they had the time and the energy and they felt confident, they went after it and they got it.
And so
I know
they,
it's a little long-winded.
no, I mean, and it's an amazing story. I think and so to clarify, that team had really never, they didn't have any capture on this. They didn't have any foresight on it. $40 million bid came across their desk, and they took the shot, and they were prepared because of the AI, and it came back, and they won it.
Yeah, they said they felt confident in the materials they've been putting out up to that point. They're like, why don't we take a shot? Let's see, because like they said, they didn't limit themselves to what they expected the tool could do. They wanted to see what they could do. And I guess just a quick analogy, don't treat the AI implementation like you're a museum curator. You're not trying to perfectly preserve every artifact from the past. You're moving into a new house and you can only bring the things you actually need, love, and want to use.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like it's not even just about efficiency and how quickly we can do things, but it's actually a sort of a strategic shift that we have to make. It's about our business strategy, and it's another thing that we've seen with with win rates. There's a conversation about well, my win rates, that metric kind of becomes less and less important as my bandwidth to respond to just about everything that I see increases, or the idea of just in general taking more shots on target. So it's kind of these strategic things. AI almost opens the door up for us to think a little differently about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a huge one for sure, I think. And if I remember correctly, that company, if I remember the story right, they won that bid and they actually unseated like a top 10, large systems integrator. Is that right too?
Yeah, they're a top 10 or Forbes top 10 company. I'm not going to name any names, but yeah,
Of course, yeah.
they're not happy about it.
Yeah, no, it's good. And as a small business guy myself, that's one of the things that I really like to see too, is how AI can empower small businesses, not taking contracts necessarily from large primes, but just in general.
But yeah, leveling the playing field, because
Yeah.
there are just as skilled people working in small businesses. They just have to work with less.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, let's jump into one more question here for the audience. One thing that we're really interested in is just where you guys find opportunities, what that process looks like for you, what platforms you're using. Where do you go to actually find some of the opportunities that you eventually are pursuing, whether that's at the federal market or federal level, whether that's state and local, whether that's commercial opportunities even. I know for me, I've used tools in the past like like a GovWin, Deltek GovWin, GovTribe, right? There are all these tools out there, and so we're always interested in just kind of hearing from people about what specific tools that they're using. All right, looks like we have a couple coming in here. Yeah, a lot of GovWin here, and that's one thing. I've definitely used it. I've definitely been on the customer side of GovWin. Yeah, Deltek, definitely something that that I've worked with in the past. And there are a bunch of other tools too. I think it's an interesting space. There's just so many tools out there. Larry, I guess what's your perspective on because I see here one just came through and said, hey, this is primarily done for us through local offices and talking to the customer. And then some people are really tool heavy too. What's your perspective on how AI can help us from that perspective, finding opportunities?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are a lot of different functionalities built into tools like our Awarded AI and our AI tools that can help you do not just surface level research to find information that's publicly available out on the web, but getting the AI tools to do additional levels of queries and research to tell you what results it found based off of what you said and bring them back. Because especially if we're talking about, smaller municipalities, SLED, local, those people, there are local news articles about everything they do. And same thing with small businesses. Every award they get, a small business is going to talk about it. So we call this deep research, but if you're looking for let's just say you're in Maryland, I need an IT service provider, that's an MBE for 30% participation, but I need them to have worked with MDOT in the past on an IT equipment refresh. Tell the AI all of that. And that information narrows down what it's looking, what it's pulling, what it's sourcing too. But on the other side of that too, if you have good relations locally, state, local, you know your network is your differentiator. That is a huge needle mover when it comes to, do I win a contract or not? What I see some successful teams do is they know their procurement officers, they know the people they talk to, build a persona on them. Take your debriefs you've gotten from them, your evaluations, your CPARs if they have them, and feed it to the tool and get the tool to make a simulacra of them so you can run your new proposal documents by them, or you can run ideas by them. Or what I've seen teams really successfully do is they take their email communications to understand how they react to certain things, what things they like to focus on and hear, and make sure you always draft the perfect communication to them every single time. Talk about their pain points and hit those things.
Yeah. I've even seen like using a web scrape like Awarded AI's web scraper tool to go out and scrape someone's, social media pages or something and come back in and create a persona. And then you can review communications against that, or the same thing with evaluators. And one of the
Yeah.
things I thought was really cool too is right on the front end, if we take it back before there's ever a forecast or before there's ever anything on an opportunity, you can actually ask the tool to like, hey, who buys what I sell? Especially at the federal level, it's like whose
Mhm.
strategies are dictating that they're going to invest in zero trust, solutions or whatever it might be. And so you can kind of start from there and move forward, and the AI can help you build that strategy overall to go after business too. So um, yeah, it's really
No.
interesting to see the different applications beyond just proposals.
Yeah, and just to kind of build off of what you just gave as an example there, before I joined Procurement Sciences, I was working for a small minority business, did a lot of work with the state of Maryland and our SLED market, also some with DOE and NIH. But I know the state of Maryland puts their forecast out every year around July when their fiscal year ends. And before I joined PSI, I was a customer first. And one of the things I did with that forecast is I was targeting MDOT. And I wanted to know, looking at the forecast, looking at who's assigned to each opportunity or upcoming solicitation, what is their overarching objective for this year? What is going on? What is going to be happening? What other bids will be coming out later because of these? And when the AI looked at the total forecast and who was on the bid managers, it said they're doing a complete IT refresh. I would suspect them to start buying in or replacing their data centers or servers. And that's
There you
just
go.
insight that I could bring in that was publicly available too. And that's why I always will say, you guys have a ton of knowledge. The AI just lets you put that into action where you don't have to go pick up all these pieces or be an agile hybrid expert. You just
I've
tell it
Exactly.
what
also
you
seen
know and what you don't. Sorry.
I've also seen that with FOIA data, like especially at the state and local level where that's, a lot of, there's a lot of FOIA opportunities and, you may not have time to pull all of that information in if you were just doing it yourself, but feed it into the AI, find out, what was gathered through that FOIA process for, other similar contracts you're going for, and that can, feed into that persona that you're creating as you go for future bids with that particular entity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. In general, market intel and customer knowledge and just like in general, it really is about, we don't have to go out and pick up the pieces anymore. Now we can come in and ask focused questions and have that intel right at our fingertips, which I think is so cool. Um, all right, guys. Well, let's go ahead here and we have one more kind of discussion point here before we get into key takeaways. So, guys, what advice generally do you have for teams who are looking to, bring on AI? I really want to hit on, those key pieces, those key things. If you could, give some perspective into what, those key pieces of advice that you could offer to anyone who's looking to bring AI on into their process. I think Elizabeth, we'll start with you this time.
Sure. So I know just from my own experience of getting started, the biggest limitation that I had was imagination. So I would just encourage people to have the imagination to try to ask a question of the AI. I would find myself wondering about, a certain topic or something like that, or what does this process mean, or what might this process look like? And I'm like, why don't I just ask the AI? And, then building from there and kind of iterating from there, asking further questions, digging in deeper, that sort of thing. Also, going back to a point that Larry made before, it is so much about quality and not about quantity. It's about the quality of the data that you're putting in there. It doesn't mean you have to bring in all 300,000 files that you've ever created. It means that you need to choose the best, because it's garbage in, garbage out. So I really stress that over and over to teams because have more digital clutter than anyone, so I totally get it. But finally, I would say just a reminder that AI is a tool and it's not a replacement. I mean, I think of it more like, if you were an artist and you had a paintbrush, I mean, you're still, it's your technique, it's your skill that, creates the work. So I really encourage people to think of it that way. You're in charge, your knowledge and skill is indispensable. And AI is just another tool in your toolbox.
Yeah, I really like that. I like that idea that, the most important thing about AI is that we can't just ask it to replace all the knowledge and all the people. So many people are like scared of it, or they think, and it's, the most important thing about AI, I think we've pretty well, communicated this throughout this presentation, is the people behind it that drive it. So I love that.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important. Larry, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah. So honestly, if I could go back a couple of years ago and tell myself when I was starting off with AI, anything, it would probably be, just don't be afraid to make mistakes. And when you do make mistakes, don't get frustrated when you do. I mean, I know I'm kind of retreading on what you guys both just spoke to, but when I started, I think I really obsessed about I got to get the prompt perfect every single time out of the gate. I need to make sure I fill in everything and that the AI completely understands what I'm doing, or it's just a wasted effort. I'd get defeated if the AI gave me a slightly bad output, or if I made a matrix table and the table didn't meet my expectations or didn't align. I would just get so frustrated and, start at the drawing board. But the reality is, though, the AI is going to make mistakes. And often it's going to make mistakes because we make mistakes in how we ask it. It's just a computer. It is not going to take things personally, and neither should you. You should start over, kick it, and try it again in a different prompt. And in fact, I think your mistakes are your best teachers. They lead you to one of the most powerful pro level prompting techniques, prompting to the negative, grounding the AI. Once you see the AI generate something you don't want, you learn to explicitly tell it, do not include X or avoid discussing Y. You only learn how to build those essential guardrails, though, by seeing what doesn't work first. So, my advice is really, embrace that learning curve. The mistakes are where mastery really happens. And honestly, I think this is a huge opportunity. While I do think it's organizational change management, we need to invest in our people. We're at the cusp of a brand new technology going to market. And I don't know if anyone on the call remembers commercial computers when they first went, personal computers went to the public market. DOS. We didn't have mice. All you had was a keyboard. And when you worked with those DOS systems, we called it prompting to get the computer to do anything and to respond to us. Now, those systems are very finicky. You have to prompt everything right. The instructions have to be correct, and you have to know a certain level of kernel knowledge about the systems. Well, eventually, we found out that that's not going to work for most common users. So we put together operating systems, UI, UX applications like Windows or Mac. And in the background, they're doing everything DOS used to do, sending prompts and instructions to the tool, but they're just making it more user friendly. I think that's where we are with AI right now. Right now, we are figuring out how do users need to interact with the tool? What is going to be the next fundamental way you interact with tools like these? But just like computing and coding and DOS, that used to be publicly available. That knowledge was freely shared. Anyone could learn it in their garage. But then a few years later, once it goes mainstream and gets into the hands of businesses, well, now you got to pay $40,000 a semester to learn about it at a college, and you got to go there for 4 years and get a master's program. It became a career field. So we're at the ground level right now where you can not only learn about what's happening, you can see it as it's getting built, but you can also influence it. And that's where my team, we really rely on our customers. I was a former user. Elizabeth was a former user. We want to know, what do people like us need? What do you need? What are you working on? Because we won't know how to build it if we're just coming from we're going to throw tech at you. No, 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 no. We don't reinvent the wheel. We take what you're already doing and augment it.
Yeah. Two things that you said there that really stuck out to me. One is, don't be afraid to prompt. Don't be afraid to talk to the AI, really get in there. And I think that's one of the things that I've always felt too with new users is some people just don't know, they're just not, they're like, oh, it's a computer. I've never talked to a computer before like this. I don't know how to do it. And I think once they get over that initial hump and just ask the question, right? That's where you start to, like you said, unlock that learning curve and kind of get into those things. And then the other side of it too is, what is the mouse for AI? Like your DOS analogy, right? What is the next leap forward look like? There's so much happening in the space right now. And so what is the next stage? And to be a part of it has been really cool, at least for me.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's what I said. Our customers are going to influence where we go there. We are constantly studying and trying to understand what you need, how you want to work, because it is a paradigm shift. And while we are working with, Word documents and Word formatters, because that's the tools we currently use, it might not be in 5 to 10 years. We might not have these long RFPs where a procurement officer just scanned or faxed the page to you, and now no system can read it. It might be a completely different system, but we get to influence it. And we know procurement doesn't change very quickly, but they're definitely got their eyes open now because they're getting more bids.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something we hear all the time too about the move to more and more oral presentations. And it's like, well, guess
Mhm.
what? The AI can help us in a huge way there too. So, all right, guys. Well, I apologize. I'm just a little hoarse today. Um, I'd like to go ahead and wrap up here. We have about 15 minutes left, so more than enough time to have a good conversation. What are some of the key takeaways? I mean, if you could boil it down to three things, four things that you would want every single person here to take away from this conversation, what would those be, Larry?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to regurgitate a lot of what I've already said, but AI adoption isn't a tech strategy, it's a talent strategy. The biggest transformation coming is in our people and in how they work and learn to use these tools. We're at the dawn of, I don't want to say it's a completely brand new profession, but we're going to have in our profession individuals who master these tools and are going to distinguish themselves from everyone else who doesn't know how to. And they'll become most valuable players. So invest in your people, make them all your MVPs. And if you do that, you'll see compounding successes down the road. Second, your mistakes are your best teachers. So don't
Mm,
get frustrated when something doesn't work exactly the way you want it. When you make a mistake, it might be because the AI did something wrong, but it's also probably because you did something wrong. Let's use this as a teaching moment. And often I like to tell the AI, well, why did you do that? Tell me why you did that. And now give me the instructions I should have said so you do it this way. And that's how I learned how a lot of the AI works and how it interacts because it's not talking in English. It is communicating to you and writing to you in a language you understand. But where I have a definition or a meaning behind words and a syntax, the AI has an encyclopedia of knowledge of information. If I tell it what's a sin, it might give me a biblical definition or it might give me a GSA modification form. Context and knowledge is important. So make those mistakes so you know what does it need to you need to tell it. Um, and I guess third, the clock is ticking, and that's to my last point I made a few minutes ago was AI is a powerful competitive advantage, but very soon it will just simply be the price to play to stay in the game, just like CMMC too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Elizabeth, what do you think if you could boil it down into just a couple cool things?
Um, Again, just to reiterate, AI is really more of an art than a science. Kind of building on what Larry says, just dive in and as you're going, push back on the AI, give it feedback, ask it why it did something. When you get to the end and you didn't know where you were headed, but you like where you ended up, ask the AI, hey, how do we get here? Because I want to capture this process so I can repeat it again. It really is an art, not a science. I'd also just really encourage people to, have patience, take that crawl, walk, run approach, chip away, start small, get those small wins in, and I promise you, they will add up to big ones. I see it on a regular basis with customers. And finally, there's no replacement for your knowledge and experience. Just, sharing, building on what Larry just said, your knowledge and experience is irreplaceable. This is just another tool in your toolbox to take away those time sinks, those mental drains, and just allow you to focus in, maybe bid more, and really take a creative and innovative approach to your proposals.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of what we talked about today, I think, comes down to people, right? And it's so true. What I've seen is that AI is great, and super effective, but we have to use it to empower the people. It's not
Yes.
something that can come in and replace our talent. So definitely resonate with that. All right, guys. Well, I am just so excited that we've had the chance to present here today, and it's great, of course, to be on a panel with you guys who I get to work with every day, and talk through these things. And yeah, I mean, thanks for having us, APMP, right? Thanks to all the attendees for joining. Any general questions in the chat that might come across here? We're happy to hang on for a little while and answer those, of course, and discuss if there's anything. Any burning questions that you guys have, feel free to jump in and drop them in the chat for us.
I don't know if you want to take this question, but I see one in here that says, how do you see AI evolving in our profession in the next 5 years? Any advice on staying ahead of that curve? It's evolving so rapidly, but I wonder if it's heading towards a plateau. Um, you know, I, I, I'm happy to answer that one. I often look a lot towards, because you always worry, are we on a bubble? Is technology moving too quick? Every technology's half life has been cut in half. Every industrial or technological revolution or innovation we have. So I like to look back to the past to see what have we done before and how have we handled it when technologies have evolved. And one of the biggest ones that I look back to is the printing press. And when the printing press was developed and went mainstream and they were first starting to produce it, there was a decades long campaign by Luddites to say how this was going to degrade our society's information retaining abilities. It was going to make us dumb and uninformed. And there was going to be way too expensive to adopt and to adapt to it. But that technology didn't go away. It kept changing. We went from you have to change every single letter and key individually, and you have to line them up by the pica to make sure it goes out right and then print it, to completely automated systems, to now we're completely digital. And, I always think about the fact that newspapers, if you ever look at a daily newspaper, I know the anecdote is in one daily newspaper, you get more information than anybody in the 14th century got in their entire lifetime. And I would think that a lot of people would think that's the max amount of data we could deal with or to take into hand. And how much further could it go? Well, now, 2 decades later, you have the whole world of information at your fingertips and accessible to you. Now, what we want to do is, what can we do with that data? Can we learn anything from that? So I always want to be skeptical. AI will always hit some plateaus, but the direction things are going, AI is not the end goal. Um, if you follow stocks and the markets, quantum tech is a very volatile stock, but that's the next leap and bound technology that we won't probably see for 15, 20 years commercially because it costs billions of dollars to put it together, but is the next leap and bound. So they're already thinking of the innovation past AI. And what I love about where we're at with AI is these concepts and theories aren't new. They were developed back in the 70s. We just didn't have the processing power or the technology to run it, to test it, and to get results back in an effective manner. So we've got plenty of stuff that we still need to figure out and test.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I see one in here, Elizabeth, that I kind of want to toss your way, which is, what are some of the things that you've seen that are maybe wins or benefits that you didn't quite expect, with customers as they brought things on?
One of the things that jumps out at me is really getting a lot of value out of creating personas and creating personas, for different purposes, whether it's, taking a particular perspective with the content you're creating, or taking a particular perspective from an evaluator's point of view, or maybe a potential customer's point of view. Let's say if you're trying to write a script for a demo or something like that, where you want to demo a product that you're showing, or to a potential customer. So I've seen a lot of customers get a lot of value of that because they're saying I want to go about the same thing in the same way for this particular agency every time. So that can be a real time saver for them, and not have to reteach the AI that every time. Have a way to make that part of their prompting, and use it on a regular basis for particular whatever content they're trying to create with that persona.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great one. Definitely a great example. I do see a couple questions in here too, guys, about like security, compliance, the changing landscape. And so I just wanted to address that one myself really quickly is, I've seen a lot of people hesitant to use AI, especially with respect to like control on classified information and CMMC and all these things. I think this is one area where it's really, really important to, when you're selecting an AI solution, kind of do your due diligence, right? And understand where things are hosted, how things are going to be maintained, right? Where development teams might be located, all those little things, right? Look for a solution that's, going to be SOC 2 Type 2 certified, right? You're going to definitely want a solution that's going to be looking towards CMMC level 2, if not already, actively engaged in an external assessment. You want to look for solutions that are following, the path that they need to be on. And that's one thing that we've emphasized right from the beginning at Procurement Sciences is, hosting in Azure, in the government cloud, right? Making sure that everything's, leveraging certain FedRAMP services, et cetera, et cetera. So all those security and compliance things that on the industry side right now with CMMC are such a pain and such a challenge. You need a solution that's going to match, the level of intensity and really what's required there overall. So something that we definitely prioritize at Procurement Sciences, and just in general, something that I think everyone should be on the lookout for, because the last thing you want is to be putting, your own business sensitive data, let alone, government sensitive information into a tool that's going to use that as the basis for like training a large language model or, sharing it out with people. That's, definitely something that you want to be cognizant of.
And just to touch on it in particular, in the GovCon market, especially, you know, it's a pretty gate-kept community. We stick to ourselves. There's a lot of information, a lot of technical jargon. Not a lot of companies or people that focus a ton and know the ins and outs and day to day of what we deal with. And you want to make sure your applications, of course, they're probably checking security, they're checking requirements, but that they are familiar with the intricacies of government contracting and regulations and how that landscape will shift and quickly change within any new administration that comes in or any new elected officials. So understanding how quickly that can change, but also how slow it can go. If anybody remembers when CMMC was first announced, I was a lot younger.
2017.
I was a lot younger.
Yeah.
But you want to work with someone too that is going to be proactively making sure they're getting those SOC 2 audits. They're checking, getting their CMMC audited as well. They're putting the right documentation in place, but also are putting themselves in between you and the model providers, because we don't give our tools away for free. OpenAI and ChatGPT are for free. That's because you're the product. You're not anybody else's product when you're with us. You're our customer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great point. Definitely a great point. Well, thank you guys so much for all the insights. I definitely appreciate it. I'm sure the audience appreciates it. And feel free to connect with us, guys. I went ahead and made sure that we had our LinkedIn, profiles included on the slide. So we'd love to talk to you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. But with that, Darby, I'll pass it back off to you. And I hope everyone on the call has a great day.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, Larry, Sam. What a great discussion today. I really appreciate you all being here with us. And a reminder that by registering for this webinar, you will receive a post-webinar email, which will include our webinar feedback and those slides that you saw today. And to our attendees, the recording of this webinar will be available on APMP TV shortly. And before we wrap up, I just want to give a quick plug for APMP's next virtual event. It's our biggest event of the year. It's Winning AI, and we're thrilled to have Sam join us for that event. So be sure to check out our event page for more information on how you could see Sam chat more about all the exciting conversations around AI in our profession. And also early bird rates end tomorrow. So be sure to check that out on our event page. And so thank you so much again, you guys. We'll follow up with you all with that feedback, but I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.